Hello and welcome to the show. Sorry about the little detour yesterday. Yesterday, I believe what I put up was a Q and answer session with someone I met recently because I joined the APVA as the Association of Professional Podcasters and Voice Actors or something. So it's this international body. So they have branches in I think Zimbabwe, South Africa, Kenya had their hangouts recently. So there was the Abuja hangout. I think that was maybe 2 weeks back. So I've been getting to know other podcasters and other people in the community. And so Tony Doe, one of the members of the community, reached out for people who wanted to feature on this podcast. And so the recording that you guys got yesterday was essentially a Q&A session. Well, he had sent in the questions via email, and then me and another chap, we recorded the responses. And so that is what I shared yesterday. So sorry about that detour. And today we're back with the regular business content, and we are taking up from the customer relationship management. Okay, yes. So that's what we have been discussing before the detour. Customer relationship management. What does that mean, and why is it important? And so I think 2 or 3 days back, I had gone into the theory of defining customer relationship management. Broke down a couple of definitions. What does a customer mean? What are CRM tools? Stuff like that. So if this is your first time of listening to the show, then for this thing to have greater clarity, for you to appreciate the full context, then you have to go back 2 episodes and you'll get caught up to speed. So today we're going to look at specific examples of calendars or diaries or reminder systems or note-taking systems or whatever it is that you can use so you don't forget anything, and that way you're able to keep your customer relationships on track. Why is this important? Just skip back to 2 episodes and you get caught up to speed. Summary: it's important because if you don't have something for tracking activities, relationships, obligations, expectations, then you're going to drop lots of things are going to fall by the wayside, and you're going to end up losing lots of money. You lose lots of money because your follow-up is going to be crap. Your follow-up is going to be poor. And with poor follow-up, you're going to close less deals. And then there are times that some obligations are going to be due on your own end. And if you're not tracking them and things fall through the cracks, then your customers are going to end up really, really unhappy with you. And that doesn't help for repeat business and referral because, remember, we're trying to maximize customer lifetime value. If a lot of this sounds like Greek, skip back 2 episodes. You'll get the whole gist. So, when we came to defining CRM tools, customer relationship management tools, what I tried to highlight then, for those of you who listen to the episode, please remember, I was trying to stress that it's not about the tools per se, but it's about the functions, which is the reason why I often talk about on the podcast. I talk about calendars or diaries or reminder systems or note-taking systems or task organization systems or whatever, because it's about the function, not necessarily the tool, at least in the beginning. So eventually, when you make a bit of money, it would make sense to go and pay for HubSpot or pay for Zoho or pay for Salesforce or pay for other CRM tools that are out there. But now, in the early days, when it's just you and your wife, you and your boyfriend, you and your business partners, you and your associates, there's about 3 or 4 of you. There are some simple tools that you can use to get the job done. And today's episode is going to be devoted to examining examining some of those tools. Now, first off, let's start with paper diaries and files. For those of you who have a legal background like I do, you'll be familiar with this. And for those of you who have a medical background like I don't have, you'll be familiar with it, because it is old school Nigerian in these professions to have paper diaries and to have files. So this is how it used to work back in the good old days when it came to legal. By the way, I'm sure that things have moved on since 2006 when I graduated from OAU with my legal degree. I'm sure that things have changed, and doctors all do things. Not doctors. Lawyers all do things digital and computerized now. But back in the good old days, this is how it used to work. You would have a client consultation. Okay, well, I was a brand new lawyer, so actually it wasn't me having the client consultation per se. My boss would have a client consultation. Maybe once in a while he would send me to confirm a couple of things. But the thing is, a client consultation would happen, whether it was your boss, the chief lawyer, doing it, or whether you were being sent out on behalf of the firm. Now, some notes would have to be taken because the client is going to say a bunch of stuff that, oh, Oga lawyer, welcome, sit down. About this matter, this is what happened. I was talking to this person said this, that person said that. I got angry, and then we did this. Then we went to Chief Odogu's house, and then we came back, and then, that's basically the person just sitting down and telling stories for 2 hours. But the thing is, as the lawyer, you are the one who has to be sharp enough, discerning enough to be able to figure out, like, okay, of the things that this person has said so far, these are the key facts. These are the important things that we ought to pay attention to. These are the avenues from where the legal dispute must have arisen. These are the obligations that were due, those sorts of things. So those are the sort of things that someone like me, who was a junior counsel, would be taking notes. So you'd have a legal pad or whatever, and you just start taking some notes, blah, 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 the whole thing of the whole story that the person is saying. You take the important notes. Now, after that client consultation, you guys would head back to the office. And of course, during that client consultation, the thing I would have been writing in would have been my own personal file as a junior lawyer. So we would go back to the general office. It would be my responsibility to take my own small file or my small jotter or my small diary and then endorse the larger office file or larger office, whatever it is that the firm has. Because even though I'm the one who went for the client consultation, things have to be done in such a way that any other lawyer in the office would be able to pick up the file, open to a couple of pages, open to the diary, and see that, okay, with this client, this meeting was had, this is where we are, this is what the next step is going to be. Because I might go on leave, I might be sacked, I might decide to jackpot. I mean, you never know. Or jackpot, that's Nigerian immigration, particularly to Canada. So that's the reason why, back in the good old days, relatively speaking, because I'm sure there's some people that have been lawyers since the 1950s, but I graduated just recently, 2006. So back then, there was lots of paperwork, lots of handwriting that had to be done. And so that is how things worked. So once I endorsed the larger file, and for those of you who are paralegals and junior lawyers, you all went through this, what would I call it? You guys went through the same indoctrination or the same whatever. So we all did it. Then you enter the next engagement into the other office diary. And so, like I said, other lawyers can now see who you met, what was discussed, items you agreed upon as next step, when those next steps are due, and all those things. So that was how official interactions within the law firm back in 2006 would be managed correctly, and nothing would get left to chance. So you guys see that paper and pen can work. Paper file, paper diaries, whatever, it can work. And there are industries in Nigeria or sectors or trades that used to do that. I've been out of legal for a while, so I'm not sure how it works right now. But judging with how things have changed with medical, because back in 2006, I would say it was the same thing in Nigeria anyway. Please remember all the things I'm saying, for now, Nigeria specific in the cultural sense. So I don't know about how things used to be 2006 in the UK or in most cities in America or in Australia. But in Nigeria, that's how it used to be. So medical, yes, back then you would sit down, the doctor would have a pen and write out that, oh, okay, 26-year-old came in, she has a headache, she has a hemorrhage on the lower left tibia, and she has a something, something, something. They write all those things down. But now I've noticed that all the hospitals I enter into, everything is all computered up. So doctors are clackety-clack on the keyboard, writing everything down. But long and short, what I'm trying to say is when we're trying to manage customer relationships and we're trying to keep track of who we're talking to, what stage of the relationship are we at, what do they owe us, what do we owe them, who should I be following up on, paper and diary can still work because old school legal profession, old school medical, that's how they used to do stuff. So now the problem that some people have with it, there's the question, is this high tech? And my response always is, does it have to be high tech? Because there's a wedding planner that I spoke with, and I think that was her main thing, like, this thing is not high tech. But then that's my response, like, does it have to be high tech? Why not just start with what is comfortable, what is available, what you can easily train people on, what will work for your business now, and then maybe later on try the high tech thing. Because as a wedding planner, if you want to be forward thinking and all whatnot, and you want to get some fancy CRM, I mean, the thing is, look at the culture, look at the time where we're at, look at the staff that you have. Is this something that they're going to use? So I'm not saying everybody should get your pen and papers and diaries and paper files. I'm not advocating for the use of paper. I'm just saying that it's not such a problem if you guys are starting out with paper. Paper does have some drawbacks, but we'll get to that eventually. So it doesn't have to be high tech. Start with what works. Give it a try, because if you are doing nothing for now, this will help you increase your profits. Please note, that is what I'm driving at. Right now, some of you are doing nothing. You wake up every day and you're just freestyling. You try and remember from the top of your head that, oh, last week I saw Odogu and I saw Ajia Halima. So maybe I should follow up with them this week. You're running things from memory. You might have forgotten that apart from Odogu and Hajia Halima, you also saw Otumba Benga, but you forgot about Benga. You follow up on these two, you end up missing on Benga's business. So for someone who is freestyling now, and you start doing paper, pen, diary, folders, you see, things fall out of the cracks less, you end up making much more money. Then, so there's paper diaries and files. Now, back to my wedding planner friend when we're having this conversation. There's online cloud based, which is what she was trying to do for her own wedding planning practice using free things in the Google Suite. But back then, it wasn't called Google Suite, it was just Google, and all these things were separate and standalone. So, what she was trying to do at the time was this, which is also a workable solution, that after the client meeting, someone would take notes and then store it in Google Docs. So instead of writing it in the Office file, somebody would type it into Google Docs under the client's name. So let's say you met with Madam, let me see, Madam, okay, Madam BC. Let's say Madam BC's daughter is getting married. You had a meeting with Madam BC. Then there would be a file labeled Madam BC, so that after each meeting, the file Madam BC would be endorsed with the records of all the things that were discussed, the ideas that people want to try out, and then things like that. Then, when you're done with that, the next follow-up date, you would schedule the client's name or the document's name in the Google Calendar, so that all you have to do is, when you guys wake up and you see on Google Calendar something that says Madam BC, whoever is in the office back then, whoever is in the office then, in the wedding planning business, all the person has to do is open that file, Madam BC, read through it, and then they'll see at the end that, oh, okay, a meeting has been scheduled for Madam BC for next week, Wednesday, and you people are supposed to go over samples for which kind of table napkins she likes, or, stuff like that. And then you get the show on the road. So that's how it works. It's the same paper, file, diary idea, but it's now done online. And the advantage of this, and I can testify to this actually, because even though I started off doing diaries and pen and paper, I was notoriously forgetting my diary, my pencil, and my paper. I'd show up for the client meeting. I was like, I can't believe this. I drove all the way here. I forgot to bring my diary. And now start wondering, okay, how am I going to keep track of all the things that we talk about? So the main advantage of this is if someone forgets a physical file, it's not a problem, because you can access your material anywhere and anytime, so long as somebody has a phone or somebody has a computer. Now, the other options that you can use to track customer interactions, to track customer relationships, to track all these sorts of things. There are some people that use Excel sheets, I must admit. There are only two instances where I've seen this. One was also a wedding planner based in Abuja. That's my good friend Manny of Sculptors Wedding Events. I don't know what they do now, but back when we used to do a lot of work together, maybe actually we haven't worked together in maybe like in over 5 years, I'd say. So back then they had an Excel sheet. The tabs would be like the first list would be the list of everybody. The first tab would be the list of everybody that they met at the bridal show. Then the following tabs would be, for those of you who use Excel, you know what it is I'm talking about. But if you don't use Excel, gosh, how will I describe it? That was a tab. Okay, let me just pretend that everybody knows what Excel is. So the individual tabs that follow would be the names of customers, and then all the details will be there in Excel. So you'd be able to go in and then search and all those sorts of things. Personally, I thought it was cumbersome, but you know my own attitude on these things. If it is what works for you guys, everybody in the team understands. Everybody in the team has been using it for several years. Then what's the problem? So yeah, that's it. Now, apart from the Excel sheet, oh yeah, the second situation was my brother. That's in the family export business that we run. Now, my brother is or comparatively speaking, in our family, he's sort of like a numbers geek. He's a quant. He's a quantitative person, like my wife as well. So he used to Excel up all kinds of things. And I thought it was crap until one day when we were analyzing where our revenues were coming from and things like that. And I thought it was pretty cool that in one app, we could look and see details about particular clients and know what we're supposed to do next. But then we could also enter some kind of function, and then next thing you see how much of your profits are coming from here, or what's the percentage of your inquiries that are coming from this place. And Excel, wonderful tool. That's for those of you who are math inclined. So yeah, so that's with Excel. But I have been making a lot of noise about using your mobile phone to serve these functions precisely because now everybody has a smartphone in their pocket. So this is actually something that can work because everybody has one. And nobody has the old Nokia 3310. Those analog, okay, well, was it analog? Was it? Yeah, analog. The Nokia 3610, the one that you play Snake on and things like that. And then the Nokia 1100, the one that had the light bulb on top. That was a wonderful phone. The battery could last for one whole week. I mean, that was the best phone I ever had. Wonderful phone. So now we all have mobile phones with that have different functions. It has note-taking functions. It has calendar functions, reminder functions. I mean, all kinds of functions. Wonderful. And you can use a mobile phone. You can access the Google Suite, or you can use the ones that are native to the phone. Like I use a Xiaomi 13C, and I've noticed that the Xiaomi has its own calendar, its own note-taking functions, all those sorts of things. Although I stick to the Google Suite because, in theory, if my phone gets stolen or missing, I want to be able to buy another Android phone, just sign in, and then everything is exactly where I left it. Now, let us see how all of this works so that you guys can appreciate why having some sort of a CRM tool is important to getting your business objectives going. So, let's say you want to raise funds and then you visit Odogu Malay because you want to get a $1,000 investment. At the time of recording this podcast episode on the 26th of May, if you raise $1,000 for your investment, that is currently 1.468 million naira. Yes, that is the state of our forex nowadays. But anyway, who's to complain? If you're able to get $1,000, it might be chicken change for the investor, but for us, that is 1.46, basically 1.5 million naira. And so you want to raise the funds because you have an idea for fisheries. So you discuss your fisheries idea with Odogu Malay. But unfortunately, you didn't do your research ahead of time, and Odogu Malay is only comfortable with the textile industry because that is how he has made his millions and billions from buying Ankara in Sweden or whatever and importing it to Nigeria and then selling to distributors and wholesalers. So let's say that's how he's made his money. So he's uncomfortable with textiles. But he points out during the meeting that he'll be willing to invest if you can show detailed profits and expense figures. Because after all, Odogu Malay, he's a businessman, he's an Igbo businessman, so he understands Naira and Kobo. So he understands if, okay, the core idea, I might not know it, but I can see that you put money in here, this is how much comes out at the end of the day. So he gives you two conditions. I will invest. If you show me profit and expense, let me see where the money comes in, where it goes out, how much comes out, and if you can find another investor. And you say, oh, thank you very much, Odogu Malay. I really appreciate it. You stand up, you dobale. That's the bow something, because you have to acknowledge now. Odogu Malay is a bros. So you stand up, you acknowledge bros, and then you leave. Both of you agree to see again in 1 month. Now, what happens next? The usual Gaiman attitude, that's the usual Nigerian attitude, is you go along, You try and run a few things, but then you forget that you and Odogu Malay said we'll meet in 1 month. By the time you remember, 6 weeks have passed, and you try to hit up Odogu Malay again. At this point, Odogu Malay is a serious businessman, and he thinks this idiot is not serious. And you start going into voicemail, and you say that Odogu Malay has entered ghost mode, and you think the problem is Odogu Malay. The problem is not with Odogu. The problem is with you. You actually were not serious. You're trying to run this thing from memory. And it will happen eventually when you run these things from memory that you and somebody agree that you're supposed to meet on Wednesday. And you will now wake up on Friday and like, oh gosh, I was supposed to have been 2 days ago, blah, 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 blah. I start thinking the other person himself, why didn't he send a reminder? I mean, like, who is the person who is chasing after something here? You are the one who's chasing after something. Why do you think this other person is going to remind you? Take the initiative. This is why CRM tools are really important. And like I said, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be fancy. If you did paper and pen with diary, provided you check the diary every day, this mistake would not have happened. If you used mobile phone with note-taking, scheduling, and all these sorts of apps, these sorts of things would not happen. So that is option one. What happens a lot of the time? You do your guy man thing, and you remember by the time is too late. Now, option B. You've left the meeting. You say thank you to Odogu because he's a bigger boss. You go outside, you get into the car. Before you drive away, you take out your phone and then record the details of the meeting. Whether you want to do voice note or whatever, but you put some sort of record. The thing is, you're supposed to put it down so that there's something you can refer to in the future so you can remember that when me and Odogu had a meeting in his office, what did we talk about? What are we supposed to do? Blah, 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 blah. If you're going to do it as a text and you're using an Android phone, just like I am, then what you do is you enter into your contact, whatever, where you have stored Odogu Malay's phone number. Under Odogu Malay, you will see a section there that says details or notes. I think in iPhones it's notes, but I think in some Android phones it's details. Under details, you can type a whole lot. I don't know what the character limit is. I think there are some that have typed up to like 2,000 characters and it hasn't blocked me yet to say you've run out of space. So you type out everything there. That way, every single time you grab your phone and you tap Odogu Malay, before you call, you can see the notes there about all the interactions you guys have had in the past. By the way, try and make it a summary, thing. You're not trying to write out scripture here. So just key points. October 26th, Odogu Malay meeting, objections, agreement, follow-up action points, blah, blah, blah. 5-6 lines, just to remember. So every time you open your phone and you check Odogu Malay, you'll be able to see the history of all the interactions. Then, once you record that thing in your phone, remember you do all this before you drive away from the venue. Because this is what's going to happen. You drive away from the venue, while you're driving, Momsy calls. She has just about one of your cousins who's getting married, or this thing is happening in the family, or she's coming into town. You should pick her up at the airport, you should pick her up at the park. And before you know it, that is how like 9-10 hours would have passed. You had the meeting with Odogu. You didn't write anything down. You started forgetting some of the things that Odogu said. So do this in your car before you take off. You now schedule a reminder. Put that reminder then on your phone for 1 month. That way, you are not going to forget this meeting. You won't wake up 6 weeks later and think, I should have had a follow-up meeting with Odogu about raising £1,000 for my business. Then, you also set another reminder to call Odogu in 3 weeks and 3 days. Remember, he said 1 month. 1 month is 4 weeks. So it's not a bad idea if you call him up after 3.5 weeks to say, Odogu, I just say I should greet you. Remember our meeting, blah, blah, blah. You say we should see again in 4 weeks. Should I come out to the office, blah, blah, blah. You know that whole thing. But basically, a reminder call. So this is also useful because Odogu is a busy man. He might have forgotten. So this is also a good way to make sure that he remembers, and he will now tell his PA to schedule the meeting and then all that. So the chances of this meeting going forward increase because you have set this reminder and you've taken action. So excuse me. Then before you leave, I know this sounds like a lot, but the thing is, the more you do it, the easier it gets, and you develop shorthand for taking your notes. So it actually happens sharp, sharp, sharp. Then you can also now call your business partner, Yemisi. Let's say You met with Odogu Friday. You now call Yemisi and say, hey, Yemisi, what's up? Let's meet on Friday. You now schedule that in the calendar. Now, the whole point, sorry, excuse me, sorry about that. The sore throat is gone, but unfortunately, I had a couple of speaking and coaching engagements, so my voice is being stretched to the max right now. So I need to start researching, all those funny things that people do. Drink ginger in the morning, drink honey in the afternoon, and blah blah blah. And maybe I should get a voice coach. Okay, what was that? Yeah, so you call Yemisi and you schedule it into your phone. And the reason why you're calling Yemisi is because Yemisi is your business partner. She studied accounting, so she's better at numbers than you. So the whole point of having this meeting with her is to tell her, look, I met with Odogu on Friday. Odogu said, no problem, $1,000, Abi. I can get you that money. So long as you provide these numbers for me. And you tell her, why, Yemisi, why I start working on these numbers so we can get our $1,000. So you tell her, she starts preparing the figures. Of course, you also schedule reminders to be sure that everything on track. Because if you tell Yemisi, start getting these numbers, but you don't follow up on her, you find out in 3 weeks that it's almost time for the meeting with Odogu and Yemisi doesn't have the thing there. So maybe even set a rolling reminder for every 5 days so that you can now check up on Yemisi. Say, Yemisi, how far? Profit and loss. Share everything is there. The figures, Abego, the meeting with Odogu is coming. This is $1,000. This is not small money. So please, Yemisi, I beg, do this thing. This is our future. Then, Odogu also said that he would drop the money if he can find another investor. So you now schedule on your phone that, okay, this is Friday. Sunday, when I'm in church, let me stop by Deaconess Okuni because she's a respected member of the community. And the idea is that if she can invest, then Odogu might also be convinced because Deaconess Okuni is somebody that everybody knows. So Odogu, he respects her. If she drops money, he too, he will drop. Then you also now schedule a note so that you can call the PA of Malam Sanusi and then schedule a meeting. You also put that on your calendar. The rationale for doing this is the more the better. With Deaconess Okuni, it might click. But if it doesn't click, at least you're still talking to Malam Sanusi and a couple of other people to see how you can raise money through them. So the more investors, the better. Now, let me stop with all these details because my story is getting stretched and stretched and stretched. But the point that I'm trying to recommend and that I hope you guys get is because of all these pings, because of all these notifications, because of all these notes, because of all these reminders, you can see that you're now getting closer to getting your $1,000 investment and for your business to succeed because you're not running things from memory and there's something external to you that is going to be reminding you and prodding you that this is what you haven't done, this is who you need to see, this is who you need to follow up on, this is what you have to do next. So these are examples of free tools that you can use if you're a lawyer or if you're a startup founder, you want to set up a fish factory, you're a wedding planner, or whatever it is you want to do. This is how you can manage relationships and dealings with clients and other stakeholders. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, these are examples of free tools. This is where you will start. Eventually, you would need something more complex, but when we get there, we'll get there. Today, it is fine to start with your phone. It's fine to start with pen and paper. It's fine to start with diary because you're not trying to run things from memory. So plan your dealings with customers and stakeholders properly. Make sure you don't drop the ball and you should be fine. 30 minutes, so let me bring today's episode to a close. So that's all for today. Please connect with me on WhatsApp. The phone number is 080-6466-2140. The country code is +234 for those of you who are not Nigerian. Then connect with me on LinkedIn. The name is Tavishima Ayede. You can confirm the spelling of my name and my email address from the link where you're currently listening to this episode. So thanks for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.